All right, everybody. All right, family. We're back at it again. Episode 2 of Meet the FOI podcast. My name is Brother Shinobi Muhammad, also Brother Lonzo X.
And I am Brother Winford X.
We are here again, with the main purpose of self improvement and personal accountability. At the end of the day, the number one focus for us is to make sure that we're helping individuals understand what the FOI goes through, what our training is about, and then also connecting that with brothers that are one incarcerated, right?
That's
Brothers
right.
that are ex-cons. And even
Absolutely,
I
for
interviewed
sure.
a brother last night who was actually in prison, right? Wait till you guys hear that interview, right? Then dealing with brothers who are affiliated with street organizations and those who are former members of street organizations. A lot of brothers that's in the Nation of Islam, that's in the FOI, they come from that life. So we really want to, it's a man-to-man conversation. Most of what you'll see with us, we'll pick the subject, we'll dialogue that subject, and then we'll roll it into interviews and things like that. Eventually, you guys will get used to that and you'll see how we're planning. But the main goal is for you guys to reach back to us, hit us up, and message us. We'll have all that information right at the bottom. So you better, follow up with us if you have any questions. If you know somebody that needs that advice, that counseling, whatever, hey, just reach out to us. So we're gonna get this show going. Now, as always, we like to greet all our family, all of our people that are watching, in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. That just means peace be unto you, because we always wish that to every brother and every sister that's out there, because we want for ourselves that which we want for you. So we want peace, so we want you to have that same peace. So now the next subject that we were dealing with more or less is about the violence in the streets. So we interviewed a couple of brothers about the same subject. So we're just gonna touch on the basis of from our experiences, because it's always gonna be about our personal experiences tied together with what's actually going on currently. So I'm gonna shoot this question out to my brother here. What was the streets like for you growing up?
You know me, man. Before I start anything, I have to open up.
There you go.
I definitely got to open up.
He's got to do it. He's got
Yes,
to do it.
I have to do it. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the extension of the Son of Man. As the brother said, we greet with Assalamu alaikum. That don't mean we blowing nothing up. That just mean peace unto you. And actually, Assalamu alaikum is a prayer. That's a prayer. So when we say that, we are asking God to protect you and give you a state of mind of peace and tranquility. So getting back to the question, you said,
what was the streets like for you growing up?
Okay, what was the streets like for me growing up? Actually, man, I had a good childhood. I had a good childhood.
All right,
man.
all right. That's
I had a
good.
good childhood, man. Even though my mom and my dad divorced when I was 6 years old, those things happen.
They do.
And by the grace of Allah, I was able to go with my father. I went with my dad, and my old man my father always taught me, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I always had good morals and principles, growing up, and he always tried to protect me.
Okay.
I always tried to protect me from what the streets had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm young. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But as I grew, man, knowing just the atmosphere that I was put in and where I was being raised at, it was gang affiliated.
All right.
And around there was, drugs are everywhere.
Right.
A lot of time man, I was in a drug infested place and this and that, and the first thing we always think about is the ghetto, but it's drug infested place in the suburbs. You know that, right?
It sure is.
Okay.
Most definitely.
So we in America.
Right.
Number
one drug consumer in the
That's
world.
right. So so it was drugs around. Drugs was definitely around, and just when you have access at those types of things, when you have a single parent that's still have to, fulfill the obligations of the responsibilities of food, shelter, clothing, not for themselves, but especially for your children as well.
Right, right.
That's what that took place, and I was able to see certain things. It was normalized for me, but when we start to break these things down, and that's why I'm so happy and I'm so thankful, brother, for this platform, because a lot of things that we normalize is not normal.
It's not normal at all, and that's the same thing with me, man. You know, me growing up, I mean, I would say I had a very rough, interesting life. Even though my mother, she did, the best she could and
Right.
whatever with the knowledge that she had. But if I start reflecting back on ages of, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever, brother, I know what it is to be beat. I used to get handcuffed and put on these little. We lived in the projects and get beat with a 2x4. So that was a form of discipline, and for me, I remember, being like I think I mentioned before, being waterboarded. I know what waterboarding means.
Mm.
I used to get dumped in the tub and submerged as part of that discipline.
Mm.
I was picked on a lot, bullied a lot. You know, I didn't have any other siblings around me, and so the reality of it is man, I didn't. I had to learn how to cope within my own space, within my own world, and when I think about all those things and the effects of those things, and as those stories move forward, it kind of gave me an idea. But you know, growing up for me, man, was on one part not all ugly. It wasn't all ugly. I
Right.
had
Right.
my laughing times and fun times. Children are rough. They tough.
Right.
They have a lot of endurance.
Right.
But we learn. Children learn how to compartmentalize too,
Mm.
and they push things to the side. And that's some of the things I had to deal with growing up. But I mean, the things I do remember vivid, man, are very hard. But that's hopefully what we're trying to express, to the people is that when you're looking at these brothers that's on the street and they're gangbanging, you say, man, look at them, or you look at them in hard situations doing, some insidious, some, crazy things, man, that's coming from somewhere, right? It's not just about that they just want to be out there just to be wild. And even the ones you think they're just out there wild, there's something going on.
Mm.
They just not going to communicate it a certain way. They don't know how to communicate it. They're not being conditioned on how to communicate it. They're conditioned on how to respond
Mm.
to emotional stimuli. They're conditioned on how to, one of the subjects you're going to be dealing with down the road is fear and insecurity. They're hiding things, and when those things kind of creep up, they snap back off those things. They respond. So it's just that's a big that's the thing. And as we go more and more into the show, you know, and both of us are able to unveil those because we're always going to dive back to the young ages. Those are the things that are therapeutic for us. And we don't just do this show so we get on here and get all preachy and like.
Right. Right.
You know, we're broken men who's come into an awareness of self through a training uh, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by Minister Louis Farrakhan, that is helping us to piece ourselves back together. And that's the same as a lot of these other brothers. So, you know, moving that to the next thing is, what do you think is the missing messages in stopping gang violence? Since we're dealing with that aspect of, what do you think are some of the missing messages in stopping gang violence?
What's missing in the message to stopping gang violence to me is uh, I'm going to borrow what the master teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, said, and it is being able to demonstrate the real, true definition of what love is, right? Um, because in order to stop someone from doing something, especially something that's detrimental, that's destroying their lives, that's taking lives, is true love, man. But we have to go. We got to go a little further than that. Anytime that I speak, I always like to talk about the reality of cause and effect.
Right.
Right. And one thing that we always try to do, we're always trying to solve problems from the effect.
Right. Right.
You can't solve problems from the effect.
True.
You have to go to the cause of it. What's the cause of the gang violence? What is the cause of, how did we get to trying to stop our brothers and sisters from destroying themselves from gang violence, representing things and blocks and stuff that we don't even own?
True.
Right?
True.
The cause of it. And I know a lot of people always try to say, well, you know what, man? We always blaming the white man. It's not that we're blaming the white man. It is that That is one of the processes of the methods of being able to get to the core and how we work our way back up to heal.
Right, right.
That's a
right.
truth
That's
that
true.
we have to confront. We have to confront that truth.
That's part of the root problem.
That's a part of the root problem.
Mhm.
You know, and we're not trying to stay stuck there and say, okay, we're making excuses, we're blaming everything on the white man. No, that's not what we're doing. But the process of being able to heal and bring ourselves back to an awareness where we can go for self, that's a part of what we have to be able to teach. We have to be able to express it with a love and a concern to show our brothers and sisters that, no, man, we're not just telling you this just to be telling you this. No, we want to show you with a skill of love and be hands-on.
These aren't sound bites.
Right, these ain't sound bites. And this is what this platform is for. Like the brother said, we're not here to preach. We're here to really heal ourselves as we talk.
Right, right.
As we're presenting this and to our audience and our brothers and sisters that are listening, there are things that are coming up. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a process of things that are coming up. So I just think, man, when we talk about what's missing in the message, I think it's the true definition of love, because everything that we've been taught has been taught to us by deceptive intelligence. It's been taught to us. We haven't had the real essence of the things that we've learned. So I heard the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad say, in order for the black man and woman to be really successful, they must be re-educated. So when we talk about the process of re-education, then that means that we have to go back in the terminologies and definitions of words that we've learned.
Right.
Those not the actual definitions and the actions of those words that we learned from a people. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, if they don't treat you right, what make you think they're going to teach you right?
That's right. And that goes into the thing when you hear word, we've been taught love means an emotional component.
Right, come on,
we
brother.
only see it as an emotional attachment.
Right.
There's an intelligence aspect to that. That's why when we joke and we say, when a parent said, "I whoop you because I love you," right?
Right.
God whoops us because He loves us, but that does not mean He does not inflict certain things upon you to make you get the message that, look, you need to be going this way.
That's right.
Same thing with a parent. You need to be doing this. That's still love.
Yes, sir.
Now, we're not talking about abuse. We're
Right.
talking about love.
Right.
Having a genuine concern of your growth, your path, your purpose, and everything, and making sure you're locked in and loaded. For me, when I think about the message that's missing, a lot of these brothers, man, even brothers who are older brothers, they make the mistake that, especially within the street organizations, that these younger brothers owe them something. Right? They don't owe you anything because you are the reason why they're following in that example and trying to outdo you.
Right.
So you owe them something. So the humility is not there. They, a lot of times a lot of older brothers don't approach, and even brothers who have knowledge and whatever, they get this new awareness of all this knowledge. They have to remember that you have an obligation now to them, not they to you. Their obligation falls in once they are aware and they are knowledgeable. They're aware of their actions. They're aware of the consequences. Then at that point, really aware. Because right now you're just telling them.
Right.
This is going to happen to you, young, and this, that. Now, they hear you, but you got to remember, they don't see that. Remember, they're still in the phase where they think they're Superman. It's like when a 2-year-old, they don't know what danger is and all that. You got to hit them on the hand and get them to be aware of that. Right now, these young brothers don't know that. So part of it is you have to understand your audience, and you have to understand your accountability, and you have to bring in some humility in that process. And so, like you said, love and then humility. Because without humility, you can't really love. You can't have true compassion for that other human being and understand where they're really coming from. And that's part of the training that we get in the FOI, which is the Fruit of Islam. It's a name given to the training of the military training of the men in Islam in North America. The whole focus of that training as men, right? As men. That's why we focus it towards men. But sisters, it's beneficial to you too, because we're working on the men that actually need this guidance, and as we all need it, right?
Right.
So that's the whole point with that. So The next thing is money and jobs, the solution. Because we hear that a lot, right?
Yes, sir, we do.
You know, man, we need more jobs, you know.
Yes.
And I think when the minister was, I forgot the meeting he had with Jesse and Cornell West and a lot of these other brothers, and the minister said, man, in 20 years, you know, in every 20 years, it's jobs and justice.
That's
Jobs and justice. We keep begging for jobs and justice, jobs and justice. And our condition worsens, yet we still don't get the jobs and justice. We still don't get none of those things. So I asked the question, you know, is money and jobs? Because we get money too. You see brothers flashing the money, having the money, but money does not free us.
Right.
Touch on that for me about money and jobs being in people's mind as the solution. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, the question is money and jobs the solution?
Hmm.
Just get straight to a short answer. No,
Okay.
it's not the solution. Can it become a part of the solution? Yes, but before that, what comes before jobs and solution is truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know, just to say it that simple and simplified and just say truth. In order for truth to be present, especially where we at in 2022 going into 2023, it in order to establish truth, sacrifice is going to have to be made,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, just to look at the reality of things, lives are going to be lost
Yes.
to bring truth to the forefront,
Right. Right.
right? Because we're working behind the eight ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of things that have happened to the black man and woman and humanity in general. We've been shaped in iniquity, and when we're shaped in iniquity, iniquity is falsehood.
Mm-hmm.
Iniquity is another uh, a disguise of deceptive intelligence. So that's where truth is not present.
Mm-hmm.
So we become replicas of that.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, we get the money, we flash the money, we do these things. I've had money, but it says in the scriptures that a fool and his money shall soon depart.
Right.
So that means that I've been a fool. I'm talking about myself personally. I've had money go through my hands,
Mm-hmm.
and it departed.
Hmm.
Now, in that process of a departure, I can say that okay, I have knowledge of truth, but to actually apply and understand that truth is two different things.
Two different things.
Right? So I just think that yeah, money is in jobs are not the solution. I think that having truth is the solution. Now we see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, how long he's been on the battlefield,
Mm-hmm.
speaking his truth. That brother has suffered.
Mm-hmm.
He suffered, and he's shrunk himself and extended and expanded his breast. And it takes the reality of your existence. It takes the reality of God to do that. So I know it's cliche for everybody to always say, "Oh, I believe in God and this and that." But I think we have to do a thorough and a more deeper study on what is God. So everything has to start with the reality of God. As we know, being FOI in the Nation of Islam, the only reality is God. Right. When you get to the core of how do you build a world, how do you change the condition of people, and it has to start with God.
That's right. How I look at it, and keep in mind, people, when you hear us explaining, this is a man-to-man conversation, right? We're not, people think in the nation, it's robots. Ain't no robots in the nation.
That's right.
Right? That's what makes us unique. There ain't no robots, right? So you will notice that he says a thing about the same subject, and I say a different thing about the same, subject.
That's right.
I guarantee if I get 4 or 5 other brothers in here, because of the layers of our understanding, it's increasing. We're going to say different things, but at the root of it, we're all on point.
That's
right.
We're
not going to argue and be trying to convince one another who's right, who's wrong. That's not what men of God do. We don't focus on that. So for me, I'm looking at self-improvement, right? You make money. You have your money. You have your job. How many people know people who have jobs and they're living a horrible life? They feel bad. They don't even want to be on the job. How many people know people who are making a lot of money, but they really don't have friends. They don't really have good homes. They don't really have. They have the appearance of those things, but in their personal lives, they're struggling with things. And so self-improvement is about that vertical direction. See, money and all of that, they're all the horizontal things, the accumulation of things that you have. And then a lot of times that's just for people to see. A lot of times it's feeding into your ego, right? It's feeding into the things that you wanted, especially as as black men and women in America, when we don't have or haven't really had the realization of the things that we see on TV and all that, and we get it, right. Man, it's like a culture shock. So we going crazy. And so the vertical thing is what increases the vertical growth, which is the self-improvement, allows you to become a better human being. So when you make money, you begin to look at the money that you're making and say, man, I need to put a little bit over here and over here. I need to deal with these causes. I need to help develop these type of jobs. I need to do this. I need to do that, right? We begin to reevaluate our relationship with the money, and not as a thing of who we are, but what we can use, how we can use that money to improve conditions. Right. So it changes our mindset. So self-improvement becomes the true growth element that we have to have in order to bring true value to the money that we obtain, so that we can transform lives, not just off the strength of we having it. I mean, it's sometimes it's sad when you have brothers who are entertainers or whatever, and they go into the hood, and they got all this money and they flash it. That kind of makes resentment build up in your people because they don't have it. They don't even know how to get it, and you can't just tell them, go get it, do what I did. What does that sound like? So self-improvement is the first thing. But you do have to take care of food, clothing, shelter. You do have to think of that, but you have to, shape that a little differently for yourself and for the people around you, and that's what kind of builds a better relationship with the people around you. So
let me say something real quick before we go to the next.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What stood out to me as you were speaking, brother, when you said, we have these, we have athletes and rappers and stuff like that get successful, and they go back to their neighborhoods, and they go back and they do have on the flashy things. They do show the, $100,000 cars and all these types of things, and they're going back into a condition of real life where people are struggling. People are deprived. We're talking about generations. That had never been outside of that section. Right. And when people do come back, so one of the things that I was thinking about as you were saying that was when they become successful, even in no matter what profession they are in, sports or entertainment, hip hop, music, whatever. What is the intentions behind these parent companies, these ones that are giving them the money? Or do they have classes and curriculum set up to teach them about finance?
True.
You know what I mean? That's or do they give it to them knowing that they don't know anything and they're going to give it right back?
They're going to give it right back.
They already know that. They already know. Let's just give it to them because we already know they're not going to do right by it.
Right.
They're going to do this and that. And when we give them that, they're going to flash it. Lives are going to be taken. Robbery, envy amongst themselves, right? These things, Satan already knows this. So he says, yeah, give it to him. Give it to him. They might go get a house for mama. They might go get a house for daddy. They might do this and that. But within 5 years, they'll be back broke. They'll be back, begging, doing this and that, because those that are giving it to them are not putting the true essence behind them to teach them, to show them how to preserve it, right? No generational wealth and stuff like that, man. So that I think that's a key too.
Yes, sir.
That's a big key, and I think that's I think that'll be coming into the next thing about how the FOI can,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know I had to redo this one, right? Yeah, See, I've been down in the deep, struggling and praying for weeks. Something ain't right with my soul if I can't hear when he speak. Spiritually battling the beast, trying to take over my peace. I started fasting and reaching places I couldn't even see. And now I'm covered in power, watch it take over my lungs. Speaking life in the dreams that people told me were done. I get a good revelation when I go speak to his son. His name is Jesus, the reason why every battle was won. I remember sitting in my room, clutching one hand on the Glock, feeling like I'm so protected, but barely trusting in God. Cause fear was sitting in my body, but never knew this before. Crazy new spiritual encounter where he show up at the door. And that's what I know about rolling down in the deep.
When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut.
At least let people know who you are and you know what we how we're dealing with this on this level, and take it from there. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Big Ron.
First and foremost, I would agree, you as well as the multitude out there, and the greetings of peace, but my name is Brother Khent Assad, and I am the founder of the National Plus Coalition. I am the CEO of Plus TV and Media Production, and I am a member of the Hodari tribe of the Almighty ViceLord Nation, and I'm just a vessel for the people, bro. I'm just here for the people, serving other people, bro.
Okay, all right. Now, the thing that I love about when we're doing meet the FOI is this is an opportunity for brothers that's in the nation that many of us came the same thing. I mean that's being real. We all grew up. Most of us grew up in the hood, man. So there was it's not unrealistic for someone to understand that we came from either one affiliated organization, or we grew up in a neighborhood that was a certain way that may have led us to different roads that either we were incarcerated or we dead, or whatever the case might be. We've experienced different things, and the podcast is designed to connect with brothers who on one end who are still dealing with that dark and that light, still fighting through that process for themselves, even though they're in the nation. Then looking at brothers who are in different street organizations who, whether they're in prison or not, but they're trying to fight that same battle, saying that darkness and that light. They're really trying to, bring themselves up one way, whereas on the other end, they got a lot of other stuff trying to pull them down, but they fighting through it and they're making it work like you do. I mean, you're a brother that's been incarcerated for 22 years. Is that about right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I forgot to mention that part in the introduction, but yes, sir, I've been incarcerated at this moment for 22 years, 22 straight years.
Now, a lot of times, let's be real, a lot of brothers, you've been in there for 22 years. Yeah, you lost a lot of time, right? From yourself outside. However, something happened in your life, and that's what we're going to be getting into. Something happened in your life that switched gears, that made you a brother that can turn around and say, I'm the CEO of this, I'm doing this, I got that happen. They're brothers that's on the street, they ain't never been to jail, ain't never been locked up, ain't never done none of that. And they can't account for what you just stated. So that's why I say it's important that you represent something that's important, that's valuable, that makes sense. And this is why Meet the FOI podcast is here, to highlight those things, because I've always had that belief, because I didn't have that negative belief about myself, so I can't have it about you, that though we come from those different roads, we're not stupid, we're not dumb, we're not this, that, another. We just adapting to what we have to. And then on the flip side of that, as we come out of certain things, we do what we do. We may not get any special accolades about it, but we still do what we do. So I again applaud you on that. So 22 years incarcerated. I'm going to start it off with the first question. I know a lot of people may want to know is, tell me about life before prison. Tell me about that life. And try to hone in on the younger part, right? Because we've been starting off in that area where most of the people started from the young age, and the things that impacted you there, the things that you think that may have contributed to, going to the streets and all that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I'm originally from the west side of Chicago, and I was adopted. I was adopted as a child at like probably 1 year old, and my little sister, she was adopted. It was me, my little sister, and my older brother, and we were adopted by a family because my mother was on drugs. My father was on drugs. They didn't, they was young, going through what they went through. They placed us up for adoption, and we was really adopted into a very all right family. Say it like that. My older brother ended up they ended up sending him back because they said that the house was too small because the family had already had 2 older children and they didn't have enough room in the house, so they had to send one back. And the mother that adopted us, she chose to keep the 2 youngest, so she kept me and my younger sister. And as I said, we was well off. My father was he was the head electrician at Amtrak on 16th Street in Chicago, and my mother was a registered nurse, and that lasted very well. But what led me, we grew up in the church. Every Sunday we was going to church. My father was a deacon. My mother, she didn't, she was in the church also, but she didn't hold no type of position or nothing. But my father was like one of the head deacons. So I was raised completely in the church, from the choir to me and my friends. We started. I was always a leader, so me and my friends, we end up starting. First, it was the junior deacon board. We was a bunch of little boys that, our fathers was the head deacons, and we just started the junior deacon board, and we went from that to being the junior usher board, and we just, that was my first little taste of leadership. But when I really just got into the street, what led me into the streets was when I found out that I was adopted. When I found out that I was adopted, that hit me real hard. So that's how I became rebellious and went into the streets right there. The adoption. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me this. Now, somebody who's never been adopted, somebody who's never had the realization of, because it does take some out of you. It's kind of hard to explain it because you like with myself, man, I'm an adult, man. I just found out who my father was 3 years ago, right? And I'm growing up thinking that my dad is some, dude that beat his wife, alcoholic, killed her, killed himself, blah, 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 right? And, I'm disconnected from that because I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. And at a certain point, you give up on that. But then when I realized who he was, for real, it was a total opposite of that. So tell me, man, something must have kicked off in your head that made you to respond that way. Because think about it. Once you found out that truth, what was it that made you respond the way that you did? As far as that, what was the feeling? What was the idea? What was going on in you?
Okay, first I got to tell you how I found out. Okay, I remember as a child, all of my teachers used to ask me like, "Who is Pearl Gray?" And I don't know. And they asked me, "Well, who is Veda Brown?" And I was like, "That's my mom." And they'll leave it at that. So this particular teacher, which was my 5th grade teacher, she asked me, she said, who is Pearl Gray? I said, I don't know. And she was like, well, who is Veda Brown? I said, that's my mama. And I said, why all the teachers be asking me that? I was like, why all the teachers be asking me that? Can you tell me why y'all be asking me that? And she told me, she was like, she said, she said, Veda Brown is not your mother. That's your guardian. Your mother is Pearl Gray. And I was like, man, my mama ain't no Pearl Gray. I don't know who that woman is. I said, my mama, Veda Brown. And she was like, no, you're adopted. And when she told me that, I couldn't even really pronounce it. I was so young, I couldn't even pronounce. I was like, adopt, what that is, you know? And she told me, she was like, Veda Brown is your grandmother, your auntie, or your neighbor, or somebody, whoever it is that's taking care of you. But your mother is Pearl Gray. And this was like the first time that I heard this, you know. So it really it threw me for a loop. So I went home and I told Mom, like, Mom, my teacher said that you ain't my mama. And she said, what she say? She said, you ain't my mama. She said, somebody named Pearl is my mama. And my mother that was raising me, my adopted mother, she just started bashing my biological mother. Like, that woman was on drugs. That woman ain't want you. That woman ain't care about you. If she cared about you, she would have kept you. I'm the one that's raising you. I'm the one that love you. I'm the one, you know. And for a child at that age, you know, I was like, you know, you've been lying to me my whole life. You know, I'm like, man, and now you bashing my mom. Who is this woman? I want to know who this woman is. So she just continued bashing her. You know, every time she would, what happened? I went to my little sister and I said, Janet, you know, we adopted. And Janet was like, what that is? And I told her, I was like, that mean that mom and daddy ain't our mom and daddy.
And like, this is a riddle to us.
Yeah. So she really just shunned it. Like, you know, I wasn't talking about nothing or whatever, you know. So I started telling her what the teacher told me. The teacher had broke that. The teacher got to telling me, like, y'all supposed to get money every month, and the state do this and the state do that. So I started telling my little sister, like, man, you know that Cadillac that daddy be driving, man, he paying for that out of our money, you know. And so that caused my adopted family to start separating me from my little sister, because they didn't want me to, you know, put these thoughts and stuff in her head, and this led me to, like, you know, start thinking about old memories that I was having when I was younger, about meeting somebody that they told me was my dad, and my brother, he came with us, but for some reason he's gone to some place that we don't know nothing about. All of this started coming back to me, like, damn, well, who was that guy that gave me that bag full of candy and chips? And where did my brother, I know I got a brother named Ricky, where did he go? Who was he with? You know, so this led me into the streets to look for my biological family. That's how I end up getting in the streets.
See that's I mean, especially when you start, you connected. You, before that story, you feel like you're normal. That's what the thing sometimes is. You feel normal. You know, I got a dad. You know, it is what it is. You know, we're doing what we're doing. Then you find out something else, nobody's telling you anything. Then you start looking at the value of who they are. You know, am I just here as a meal ticket? Am I just taking care? You're gonna bash my mom. I mean, evidently she was sick, so you can't knock that. She was sick. I mean, it is what it is. If she had these, situations. I mean, that, you can't bash her, man. It's still my mother at the end of the day. So I don't
Right.
know it. You know what I'm saying? If
Right.
it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be getting your check. So
Right.
so that does mess things up for people. So I can see how that creates that situation. So now you're hitting the street, you're going in there, and you're dealing with that. Tell me a little bit about, because around the corner, because I'm from Chicago, so I know about the West Side. You know what I'm saying? I know about out there. You know what I'm saying? Because I got a
Right.
lot of family that stuff like that, and things like that. So you went to the wild side of the Vice Lord, like I went to GD. Them only two wildest ones, the Vice Lords and GD. They just wild.
Right.
They just wild, just for the hell of it. You know what I'm saying? But how did you hit the corner on with them? How did that part of your life kick in as far as Vice Lord?
Okay. The way I became a Vice Lord was, it's kind of a funny story, but I remember at my school there was graffiti on the wall, and it was two pitchforks going down.
Of course.
And and the pitchforks at that particular time, my favorite cartoon was the Ninja Turtles. And
Okay.
the weapon that Raphael was my favorite turtle. And the weapon that Raphael had looked like pitchforks. So that used to catch my eye. At that time, I wasn't a Vice Lord, but they used to always catch my eye, like, man, what that mean? I was like, that look like the same thing that Raphael be having in the cartoon. So that was my first vision. That was my first sight of a Vice Lord. So when I finally got a taste of them I was in third grade or whatnot, and I grew up in the Austin community area. In the Austin area, in this particular hood, it's Cicero Insanes, it's Undertakers, and that's really mostly it in this particular neighborhood. So at the school where I was at, the Undertakers was very thick, and them guys used to take my lunch money. They used to beat me up for no reason. So I kind of grew a dislike. I didn't know that they was Undertaker. The Undertaker part didn't come out, didn't register at that time, but I knew that they was Vice Lords. So I started growing a hate for Vice Lords because they used to beat me up. I was like, man, if this is what these do, I do not want to be a Vice Lord. You know what I'm saying? So my mom took me out of that school and put me in a Catholic school in Ghost Town on Jackson and Kedzie. And one of the first things, man, you're going to get asked this so many times in Chicago, what you is? They gonna ask you. They gonna ask you that probably before they ask your name. So I come in at the time. I was like, I'm probably in the 5th grade, and I never forget. My mama had me in this little suit, and I'm the only one in the suit. I'm the only one. It's like I'm going to take at the Catholic schools. You gotta take these little tests and stuff before you get in. All this little stuff here. So I'm the only one up in here with a suit on. And all the little boys, they looking at me crazy and stuff. So one of the dudes asked me, he said, what you is? And I didn't know what to say. So he asked me, he say, are you Ghost? And I was like, yeah, I'm Ghost. So he reached his hand out, he shook my hand, and I didn't know how to do the handshake. So he taught me a little handshake. So I was just claiming to be Ghost. I just said some stuff and they accepted me, and that's what it was. So they started teaching me, man, I'm finna introduce you to so-and-so, so-and-so. This is what you gotta say. You gotta say this. This is the way you gotta shake his hand, all this stuff here. So I'm like, okay, boom. So I'm claiming ghosts at that particular time, not knowing that ghosts are unknown vice lords. At this time, I don't know nothing about no branches. I don't know nothing about no ghosts. I don't know nothing about no unknowns. I don't know nothing about none of this stuff. So I got into some stuff with some guys, and my best friend was a black soul. But I got into it with some guys, and they didn't help me. The ghosts didn't help me. So they told me, they was like, they called me to the meeting because I kept asking everybody, like, why y'all ain't help me? So they were like, man, you need to go to the meeting. So I went to the meeting, and I was asking, like, man, why y'all ain't help me, man? And they was like, what, you vice lord? I was like, hell no, ain't no vice lord. I'm ghost. And they beat my
Like,
so they beat me up. So they was like, who put you down? So I was telling them, like, man, I ain't know none of these different terms that they were saying. So they dismissed me, told me get on down. So I get on down. I go back to my best friend, and I was like, man, I ain't know that ghost was vice lords. He was like, yeah, man. So I was like, I want to be whatever you is. And he was like, I'm a black soul. You can't be no black soul, man, from where you at. So I was like, why? He was like, we kick our head to the right. So I was like, well, I don't want to be no vice lord. So he was like, man, you need to become a folk on hustle. So I was like, what? So I'm like, tell me about them. He was like, man, they ride on the black diamond just like us, so we'll be family. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna become a folk on hustle. So that's how I end up becoming a folk on hustle, because I wanted to be in some kind of connection with my best friend who was a black soul. So that's how I become a folk on hustle.
that always confused me, folk on a hustle, you know.
Right.
I mean, outside, I remember this one guy.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Outside, is an area called Pocket Town. No, I think that's what it was. Not Pocket Town was the folks. It was the other ones over there on Stony Island. And yeah, he was a vice lord. The next thing he gonna tell you he's a four corner hustler. Man, that's still vice lord. That's the same thing. I don't know, because outside now, like, man, that's vice lord, man. I don't know what. Because we didn't even, when he said four corner hustle, what the hell? What is that? We have no idea.
Right.
So we were confused. All of that stuff, man, is like, we didn't have the Boy Scouts. We didn't have all that.
Right.
We had that. That was our, that's our rites of passage. We, depending on our neighborhood or our association, like the brother also on the show, he didn't grow up in the neighborhoods. He grew up in the neighborhood Crips.
Right.
But had a natural inclination towards the blood, so he ended up becoming a blood. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, but still our rites of passage, those organizations, those groups and things to that effect. But so you with the Four Corner, you with them.
Yeah, I went to them because I was taught at that particular time, we was taught that we wasn't vice lord. So I became a folk corner hustler. I came in folk corner hustle because I didn't like vice lord. I didn't want to become a vice lord. I didn't find out that we was actually vice lords until I'm talking about years later. I was in prison. By that time, I had started learning my literature. And I was like, damn, I am a vice lord. So yeah, that's how that happened.
That's funny though, because it's just funny because even on the outside, those, like I was saying, we looked at. I mean, it just sounded different because everything was this vice lord, this kind of vice lord, conservative vice lord, TVL, RVL. So we just is vice lord, but that was the only one that didn't have anything that indicated it was vice lord.
They were vice lord, right.
So I thought they were. Hey, I just said, hey, you won GD, so that's all that matters.
You ain't this.
We can solve it. We can sell this right here. You ain't GD. You ain't GD this thing.
Right.
And so, but if those organizations, if you think about these different organizations, man, it's something in our DNA. You know, that's where the knowledge of self comes into play, brother. I mean, it's like knowledge of self, man, makes you ask yourself the question, why? Why did we form street organization? Why is it a natural inclination for us to do that? It's in our genes. It's in our blood. You don't see, being honest, you don't see white kids. You see Latinos doing it. It's in their blood. It's in their DNA too. But you don't really see white kids the way that we do it, and the type of titles we give it, and the
Right.
that we, it's a little bit different.
Right.
So when you really start getting to the ViceLord learning, now I'm picking up new terms now. So correct me when I'm wrong. Lordism and all that, because brother, I didn't know. I'm none about none of this. I'm like, hey man, I don't even know what that is. But once you started finding out about that and learning about that, what kind of influence or effect did that have on you now? Learning that and kind of digesting that, what was the mindset like at that point?
Honestly, I'm gonna say that if it wasn't for the teachings of Lordism, I don't know what I don't know. I feel that that's what changed me. That's what led me to Islam. That's what led me to want to do better. First and foremost, starting with the incarceration. The incarceration began. It took me to another level.
I didn't hear you. Oh, you're on mute. You hit mute. I think you accidentally hit the mute button.
Man, I ain't know I ain't even know I did all that talking. I was on mute. Okay.
Lordism, and I don't know. Now, this actual question is up to you to tell me. I'll cut this part out if it's irrelevant, but just because if someone asks me what growth and development is and all that, I'll break it down to them, but I don't know if that's still applicable for to explain what Lordism means. So I might ask you, but if it's not something that you don't discuss, then I respect it without a doubt. But is that something that you can at least give a general idea what Lordism is?
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lordism, first and foremost, one have to understand what the term vice lord is. The word vice, meaning one with faults, and Lord being second to Allah. So as we go into the actual drawing of what Lordism is, Lordism to a vice lord is one's religion. This is our religion, which is the practice of basically, anything that's going to take us to the next level. That's what Lordism is. But in more basic terms, the practice of being second to Allah. That's basically, in a nutshell, what it is. The practice of being second only to God. So it took me to another level because it made me, first I got to tell you how. Okay, when I came to prison, I had 30 mandatory years. Okay. I came in with the mentality of, I'm 20 years old. I got 30 mandatory years. I get out, I will be 50. All right. So when I get out, I will be a 50-year-old institutionalized individual. And I looked at it like, man, all of my family gonna be dead. what the hell can I actually offer the world after doing 30 mandatory years? You know, so I didn't care to get out. I looked at it like I was going to put in a lot of work during my first few years. I was going to raise up through the ranks, and I was going to live like a king for the rest of my time, rest of my years. That's the way I looked at it. I didn't want to be one to take orders my whole life. I didn't want ones to be able to tell me just anything and I go for it. So when I came in seeking. I'm talking about, I'm knowing that I'm finna go to prison. So these guys finna be all the way up on themselves. So I'm finna get into all of my literature. I'm talking about by the time I went through processing and made it to the actual prison, I had learned so much. I was actually more educated in the organization literature than the ones that was actually there. Reason being, I'm from Chicago, so a lot of the history, I basically lived it. I seen it, different stuff that guys was hearing about. This stuff was going on in my neighborhood. I'm from the west side of Chicago where ViceLord was founded. So a lot of the stuff that was like historical stuff to these guys, people that they was hearing about like superstars, I was seeing these dudes like they were everyday guys, you know? So as I came to prison, with me knowing, oh, I know so-and-so. Oh, I know so-and-so. Oh, I remember when this happened. I remember when that happened. This put me on a different level from a lot of guys that was inside of the Mississippi Department of Correction. So, but I was still wild. I was still very wild, young, wild, with 30 mandatory years. So I was fighting all the time. I was robbing people all the time. I was very rebellious because didn't nobody know more. You know, majority of the people didn't know nothing compared to what I knew. So I used what I knew as a weapon. You feel what I'm saying? But at the time, I still had no authority. So I was so wild. And I used to use code. So a lot of times when I get in some trouble, and we used to go to the fence whenever we had these big meetings and stuff on the yard, by the time the paperwork gets sent up and they get me in front of them, I get to spitting this and get to spitting that. And they be like, man, where that brother that just did this and just did that, the one that we talking about? I'm like, man, that's me. They like, man, your name is so. I'm like, yeah, it's just a code that I use on paper. Man, why you act like this and you know this and you know that? And I'm like, man, because I can. I mean, you know, so I could do that. So it had got to the point where they end up giving me power. They end up giving me authority to like calm me down, you know. So as I started, I used to always tell them, like, man, you know all of that, but you ain't put none of it to use. And I got tired of hearing them saying that. So I started putting it to use when they gave me this authority. So I'm like, well, damn, I can't do this no more because I'm going to be wrong. So I had to start straightening up because I always wanted to be one of the righteous ones. So Lordism took me to a level of elevation. It took me to a level of elevation. That's what it did.
See that, I'm going to be honest. I've heard a lot of different interviews with a lot of different people. And maybe because I'm from Chicago, you know, and I don't look at the street organizations as we Fast Nation, man. We knocked over such. I look at it from our history, you know. This is what we had. This is what we understood. It was something that belonged to us. We can put our hands and say, this person started, this person, and say this is second generation, this is third generation, and I think that ownership is deep down is what we really want. We want to be able. It was your nature to do what you were doing, to naturally want to ascend. Your nature, brother. I mean that's the black man. You know what I'm saying? That's nature.
Right.
To be realistic, you're supposed to be even higher than that. but you know that that's the struggle to get higher than in your nature to be there. So when I hear you explaining and breaking it down, man, it just makes me just you know, I'm not going to say having a sense of pride for it, but it does make me have a sense of kind of like, man, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That, you know, I feel you. You know what I'm saying? I get it. I get it. And I think that right there is going to get me to the next question, because at no point did you tell me that the prison reformed you. It wasn't the prison reformed you. And so it was your acceptance of one new responsibility that came from that which you belong to in the first place. You know, maybe brothers that were there and it's like wising you up, like, man, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's all good, but man, you know what I'm saying? This is how you moving, and you're going to have to adjust on, you want to adjust on that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you, and then you making moves accordingly. It wasn't the prison that did that. It was the street organization.
Right.
I mean, that's just my view, right? That's my point. It was the
Right.
street organization. So I'm going to ask you this question. It's a dumb question, but I'm still going to ask the question. Do you believe that?
Say that last part because you kind of cut out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Do you believe that prison itself can reform anyone?
Most definitely not. Most definitely.
And break that down for somebody that's listening to this. That is, you know, that wouldn't understand that. Break that down.
First and foremost, we got to go to we got to go to what the Constitution says. You know, the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment actually makes us constitutionally slaves. It constitutes us as slaves. Once you have been gone through due process of the law and found guilty of any various crime, they constitutionally have the right to make us slaves inside the Department of Corrections. All right, so once we get inside these walls, you know, we could go all the way back to the crime bill of 1994 crime bill. The crime bill is what really changed the prison system and created what we call mass incarceration. And the bill was drawn up by who's the president right now, Joe Biden. At that particular time, he was a Senate. He presented the bill to Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton signed off on it. Within this bill, this created this gave birth to the 3 strikes law. This gave birth to the mandatory minimums. This gave birth to many drug offenses becoming capital offenses. This gave birth to a lot of stuff. This is the reason why they call it mass incarceration now. Okay, so once it becomes mass incarceration, it takes on another turn, and its next turn is warehousing, human warehousing. They just take us and just stack us on top of each other. You know, when the 1994 crime bill went into effect, what they did was they took $17 billion out of the welfare funds and they put it into the prisons. This is how they start tearing down by let's say 98. By 90, okay, the crime bill went into effect. It was made in 94. In 95, it went into effect. In 96, they drafted another welfare bill. By 97 to 98, they started tearing down all of the projects. Okay,
right.
When they start tearing down the projects, Okay, the projects is where most of the poor people was at. A lot of people, a lot of guys had been in prison already. So when you tear down these projects, these people need somewhere to go. Okay, they start creating new laws and policies where uh, if if you have a conviction, if you have a felony on your record, you can't get public housing. You can't do this. You can't do that. So these guys got to go somewhere. So what they started doing was they took all the 17 billion out of the welfare, and they put it into the private prisons. That's how each state went from having 2 to 3 state prisons to having 15 to 20 private prisons. All right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how all of that happened. So now then they gave birth to what they call ALEC, the American something. I can't really remember the whole acronym, but it's basically an organization built of politicians and corporations that come together and compose laws and policies and legislation, and then push it through Congress and things of that nature.
I heard
There's really it's really,
called,
huh?
called the documentary on Netflix.
Yes,
And I'm a
yes.
and they get together and they actually are formulating these proposed, which they're not technically supposed to, but they formulate them. They get them to these certain congresspersons, and they bankroll them, and they submit those policies, and then if they become law, they become law. But they're basically they're what people what are those people called when they are lobbyists?
They're lobbyists. You're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's not supposed to be going on, but it goes on. But this they don't correct us in no shape, form, or fashion, man. Basically, what they did, what they're doing with the prison system is the same thing that they did with gentrification. It's just different levels and different, you know what I'm saying? The way they did in the neighborhoods where they separated, they raised funds, they raised the price of living in certain neighborhoods just to push out minorities to certain areas. They did the same thing when they tore down the projects. They just built another place for them to go, which was the prison system. Once they isolate these minorities, the next thing that they do to divide them even more, they drop drugs down into the community. That's what they did in the 80s. That's how we got the crack epidemic. Now this is the same thing that they done did with the prison system. Because inside these prison systems, we ain't got nothing but a bunch of guys that's on hard drugs now. Crystal meth, K2, a lot of these different things here. So these guys come to prison already on drugs, and they continue being on drugs. And the prisons are so understaffed to the point that they could barely secure us, let alone correct us. So in no shape, form, or fashion at all is any correction, any kind of reform being done in any of these prisons, man, because all of them are understaffed.
Mm-hmm.
I know you know the answer. I know the answer, but we like to present the question. Who do you think really profits from gang violence?
I ain't. That's one thing for sure. Who profits from gang violence? Of course, are those you know, in high places. You know, wicked people in high places. When I say that, just to you know, go into detail with it is you know, the government, those that create illusions, who, you know, brought us into slavery. You know, those are the ones who, the big companies. You know, and it's been that way. So those are the ones who profit from gang violence. The jails, those, you know, the prisons, the private prisons. You know, those types of things are on the stock market. You know, you can put money into the prison stocks and watch your money grow, because they know that the number one thing is to make sure that the black man continue to destroy himself, give him the tools to destroy himself, right? You know, so yeah, that's just a, you know, that's what I would say.
No, that's right and exact. You know, and then we have those, as we go layers down, the poverty pimps. Those who, you know, you think they're bringing solutions, but they're not really bringing solutions. They know that they're basically, what's that term with the sharecroppers or whatever? They're
Jim Crow.
Yeah, not that, you know, when they're on a plantation and they're the ones that's out there keeping the slaves in check. The slaveholders. We call them slaveholders, whatever.
Yeah.
The management team. They're the management team, right? Yeah. You have the management team, and then you have the big bosses. The big bosses, you just described the big bosses.
Right,
I'm about to describe the middle and
the gunline boss. The gunline boss.
Yeah. And so they literally have, you have individuals who, what I call poverty pimps. They know they're not really bringing a solution. However, their jobs, their careers are based on managing you. Not to solve a problem, but to manage the problem, so that they can feed their family, so they can do all these different things. Then you have those who...
That's a good point.
Right. Then you have those who, outside of the poverty pimps, then you have those who really instigate the situation, because they know. Think about this. I asked a question. I said, what if crime dropped by 30%? Across America, across the black America, just dropped 30%. Who's going to lose jobs? It's going to be the individuals living in those suburbs, the individuals driving in those nice cars, the white people that look down on those black people that are doing what they're doing. The individuals, not just white people, but other people who have those jobs, who look down on people who have their degrees and all of that. They're going to lose their jobs, because their job is to be middle management, you know, on that plantation. That's their job, right? But once that's gone, the caseworkers lose their jobs. You don't need that many police. You don't need that many specialized programs from the government for these specialized programs to counter gang or have gang intervention. You don't have gang. If you decrease it, what do you need that for? And most of those jobs are not held by us. So that's threatening a system that requires us to be a certain way so they can employ their own and have justifications for the dollars that are spent. So it's a whole system, the whole matrix. That's benefiting from gang violence. So, now we get to a very important question. It's an easy question. Now layers to it. How can the FOI, that's the fruit of Islam, though that's the Nation of Islam, the proven organization that has been out here doing their thing, that doesn't come to you and tell you better join, you should join, or what it just suggested, hey, look at the lifestyle, look at the manner in which we're struggling and striving to be in, as far as going in the right direction. Look at that as an ideal solution to your problem. And carry that to your church, or carry that to your group or organization or street organization or whatever. How can the FOI help solve or help those in the community to solve these very problems that we just got through discussing?
Well, I would think that the primary way that the FOI can help in stopping the violence is, for one, what we represent. All right, not only what we represent, but what we are actually striving to manifest within our own self. Right. Self-improvement you just spoke about. And it's almost like, you know, we use the clean glass and the dirty glass,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Unlikes attract, right? So once you start to become patient with yourself and you start to feed on truth and you feed on a higher knowledge of coming into a genesis of civilizing yourself, then you don't have to tell nobody.
Right.
They're going to be able to see it,
Right.
especially people that knew a life that you previously lived.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to go to the scriptures. I'm a spiritual person. I know it may not look like it, but I'm a spiritual person. I always have been, man. But it's like you in the scriptures it talks about how coming into a resurrection you become a new creature. Well, it's not talking about actually physically dying, going somewhere else, and you becoming a new creature where you're gonna be changed and all this. No, that happens in this very life.
Right.
When it says you become a new creature, it's speaking about in order to become a new man, you first must have a new mind.
Right.
You're changing the mindset. You're changing your way of thinking. You're changing the process of you're coming into a resurrection while you're living. So now you become a new creature. How do you become a new creature? Because now you have new thoughts.
Okay.
I heard you say something, man. When something come up and it's not beneficial, toss it. Toss it.
Quick.
You kill that, right? And this is one of the methods that we use with stopping the violence is the studying, the training, being organized, and having some real live structure that people can see, because that's what people pay attention to.
Right.
People pay attention to structure.
Yeah,
they pay attention to structure. So if you see, we know as the FOI when we out pushing the papers and we out, in the communities and we out, going into the communities, knocking on doors or whatever. If you see a line of men, everybody have suits on, everybody clean cut, that is one of the methods that we're using to attract unalike.
Right.
We're attracting our people because our people seeing a black men all in suits. I've experienced this myself as an FOI. We going into different communities, and as we're single file line, the shortest to the tallest, so it looks real neat. It looks real structured. As we stop, we may listen to the cadence. We might listen to the captain. We might do a little drilling, and everybody is in sync. When the people see that, it does something to them. It does something to them, and you can see the old women sitting on the porch, and you see the young boys running up, and they looking, and I can do that. I want to do it, and this and that. So that is a sign showing, in particular, the black man and woman, that the essence and the nature is righteousness.
Yes, sir.
It's pulling to something.
Yes, sir.
So that's one of the ways. What do you think?
I remember, man, when I think I was about 19, 20, going on 20, and I used to, in Chicago, I would go into the high schools, and we would do the lectures. We always took the kids that were the ones they were about to kick out, because we knew if we asked them about in general, they'd be like, no. But we knew if we asked about the ones that we can speak to that were already in trouble, they would have no problem, because that was good. And I wanted to do as an experiment as I was speaking. It was an auditorium of about 150 of these brothers. That's a lot in this big old school, but it was about 150 of them. And I said, man, a thought came in my mind. I said, I need to show them what power really looks like. I need to show them what discipline can really do. I knew that the lunch break was about to come in. And when the high school lunch break come in, you got all this loud noise and you can't hear yourself think, right? I said, what if I lined them up in rank and file, just like how we do it, and marched them out there and told them, we're going to follow these instructions.
Yes, sir.
and we're going to do it this way. Don't say nothing. Make sure the man in front of you don't say nothing. Everybody is lined up. So we did that. We put him in rank and file. And I said, guess what? I want y'all to listen and see what happens. The bell rung. I said, y'all ready? I said, yes, sir. So let's do this. And what was so crazy, I'm telling them something to do.
Yes.
When people say, oh, they won't listen to nobody, I just told them something.
Yes.
But it's the way I told them.
Right.
I wanted to show them something. They wanted to see, they wanted to check it out for themselves.
Right.
We opened up the doors, and I had them to march out there and just stand. All of the kids who were normally loud, they knew who these kids were, and they were looking like, they were confused. And they noticed as they were talking, they weren't talking back to them. Because they in rank and file. They had their instructions.
Yes, sir.
They knew what they're supposed to be doing. So they said nothing. And I waited a while. I say, y'all see that? That's power. Right? And I said, y'all go ahead. Y'all good now. And who knows that one kid out of that group, maybe more than one, how that impacted them.
Yes, sir.
Right? The FOI must be present. The FOI must demonstrate its wares. The FOI must show their human side. The FOI must be just like with the minister. Show up for the call. And the call is our community and helping them to lift them up by example. The more we do that, the more we have an effect. The minister is not the minister just because he says he's the minister. If you ever think about this, when we say the minister, I don't even have to say Farrakhan.
That's right.
You know we're talking about Farrakhan.
That's right.
Right? When I say the brothers, I don't even have to say the FOI, the Muslims. You are assuming, oh, you must be talking about the FOI. Or you must be talking about the Muslim brothers. It's a definite article. It's something that's ingrained that from our history that's there, but it's also something that we have to continue that legacy of and build on. Every single FOI has this job that they must do, regardless to whom or what. So we're gonna wrap this down on this one because we're gonna, we're gonna keep this party rolling.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna get you guys to the next episode. But brother, do you have any words of wisdom to our brothers and sisters out there?
Only thing I would say, man, is I'm definitely, again, I can't say enough how I'm very appreciative of my brother Shinobi Muhammad for bringing this platform, Meet the FOI podcast. Just being a part of it is bringing out a lot within myself, and we just ask you, brothers and sisters, to continue to tune in because we're just getting started, and we have so much more to offer, and we know that you have more to offer to bring out of yourself. As you observe, as you watch Meet the FOI podcast, you're going to come up with ideas. Things in you are going to come up where you've seen shortcomings, because like the brother always say, the mission is self-improvement and holding ourselves accountable. We don't have to be embarrassed. This is not a platform to play. This is not a platform to talk about what that person went through, because as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us very well, we've all been taught by the same slave master. So it doesn't do us any justice to point fingers. We have enough problems in our own life that we're trying to clear up and correct for the younger generations and for the unborn generations that's coming behind us. So I'm thankful, man. So I'm just asking you, brothers and sisters, to continue on to watch and be inspired by what we're doing, because you can be doing anything you want to be doing at this particular time. You see this and throw it down and go on by your business, but this is what men and women do. We're striving to change the conditions so we can make a better world and bring about a new man and a new woman.
And for me, always put God first, not just in the statement of just saying it, but in reality. None of this is possible. The idea to come up with Meet the FOI podcast, none of that. That's not of my own. Anything you see me doing bad, that's on me. Anything you see that's manifesting, that will manifest greatness or that's good, that's from God, right? And we know that, right? Because the pain that we've gone through has taught us that, right? And at the end of the day, this is my therapy, right? This is our therapy.
Man, for real.
And when we reach out to you, this is real. It's unscripted. Even though we got them pre-recorded, that's just so that we can get better at doing it, you know, but it's unscripted in that regard. We get here, we meet, and then we look over our quick notes and we allow that to guide us. So we ask that you allow the words that we put out there to give you some kind of inspiration, some kind of direction. We pray that Allah God gives you something that you can take away. And we pray that you actually invite others. You share the video. See, the reason why you share the video because now you know. You are now aware. You can't just go and say that nobody know. I ain't never talked to no FOI. They were too preachy, this, that, and other. We weren't preaching. We were men talking to you and talking to each other.
That's right.
So you are now accountable for what we've given you. And if you found anything that's of value and that's truth in this, share it. Other than that, thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum.